Let's bring in now Bill Braniff. He is the executive director of Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab in the School of Public Affairs at American University. So great to see you. So, how important was this? Is this a gesture, this visit by the secretary for this trip to take place in Israel just less than a week now after these murders?
It may be an effective bit of diplomacy. That'll depend entirely on what happens on the ground. Um, at the same time, I think diplomacy backed by action is more important or more effective. And at the same time, Secretary Noam is visiting with partners in Israel. She's dismantling the Terrorism Prevention Office at her Department of Homeland Security that is best positioned to prevent these kinds of incidents as part of this government drawdown in size.
So, how does this killing, in your view, of the two embassy staff, fit into the larger picture of violence in the U.S. that is fueled by grievance and hate ideology?
Unfortunately, this incident is part of a trend line in the United States. Based on data from the University of Maryland's START Center, there are on average 3 violent plots per day that occur or are attempted and are foiled by law enforcement. That's a staggering number, especially when you consider that a very significant percentage of those are mass casualty plots intended to kill 4 or more individuals. Those are up by almost 2,000% since the early 1990s in the United States. But then you could also look at lesser violent hate crimes, and those unfortunately have also spiked in recent years, especially among the Jewish population and Jewish targets.
The suspected shooter had a history of political activism, postings on social media before the shooting appeared to express outrage over the war in Gaza. Do authorities, have the resources, to monitor all the potential threats on social media and elsewhere? I know you've already expressed, your criticism of some of the changes, but overall, is the U.S. equipped to keep up?
In a free and open society where we value and protect free speech and freedom of association and political protest, nonviolent political protest, it's not really appropriate for the law enforcement community to be monitoring all protest as threat. That's actually why it's so important for there to be non-governmental and non-punitive preventative approaches to address these kinds of issues. Not only was this individual engaged in lawful free speech and protest, he was also fixating on a previous act of violence from last year in which an individual set themselves on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. And he had been posting comments on his social media that were explicitly in support of violence as legitimate, given what he felt were the war crimes in Gaza. And so he was talking about violence and supporting violence. That's an opportunity for a non-punitive intervention by individuals around that person. And those are the kinds of things that the government has been supporting, not doing the interventions, but supporting the interventions conducted by NGOs or local schools or workplaces. And this is yet another case where an individual without a criminal record, who had a legally purchased firearm, purchased in 2020, still exhibited concerning behaviors that could have resulted in a non-punitive intervention if we still invested in prevention, as opposed to just assumed that we could criminal justice our way out of this, which is just not possible.
What are your concerns right now about the climate of discord and a variety of threats?
It's incredibly concerning. At the Polarization, Extremism Research and Innovation Lab at American University, or PERIL, we spend a lot of time looking at extremist narratives and polarizing narratives, specifically those that are intended to take anger and then turn it into violence. And on the positive side, despite how concerning it is when you see the level of sort of violent discourse occurring in the United States right now, there are ways to inoculate individuals ahead of time so that they're less likely to be manipulated by that content and mobilized to engage in violence. And we test these innovations in the lab, we test them in a limited field run, and then we disseminate them aggressively because we know that they're effective in reducing the siren song of these conspiratorial and violent narratives. The latest anti-Semitism related video that we tested in the lab, it decreased individuals' support for Hamas as a liberating organization by 7%. And individuals who watched the videos were 24% more likely to challenge this kind of anti-Semitic violent content if they came across it on social media. That's really powerful. For a group of 500,000 viewers who would see this video, that's nearly 120,000 people who would be likely to challenge it if they came across it online instead of just passively let it continue to the next potential victim. And when we think about what that costs, an intervention like that, it's less than 10 cents per view. All right. I mean, we can invest more in this kind of inoculation online so that this polarizing, violent content doesn't manipulate individuals, doesn't coerce them into going down the pathway to violence and engaging in these kinds of horrible acts of violence.
Bill Braniff of the American University in Washington, D.C., thank you so much.
Thank you.